Welcome to today's podcast, and today I have a special guest. So he is founder of A1 Connect.
Yeah.
I thought I messed up the name already.
He got it right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, done. So yeah, he is founder of A1 Connect and is a content club, and he'll tell us all about it. But he's also building an amazing community, which I am part of, which is great. I am very happy to be introducing Tommy Murphy. I call him Tommy Gunn because he just gets stuff done.
Cheers, Vic.
Welcome.
Much appreciated, mate.
Not a problem. Thanks for joining us, Tommy. We will jump into things where you tell us about your community, tell us about how you help business owners. I think the good thing about working with other business owners is you actually help them build your business, which is actually a wealth creation aspect for them. So before jumping into that, what is your story, Tommy? Tell us a little bit about yourself,
Yeah, so you can probably tell from my accent, those listening, I'm not from around here. A bit like yourself, Vic. We're both migrated to Australia. I came here 8 years ago. And prior to that, I was working in outdoor education. So I got to travel all over the world working with high school students to basically bring them on overseas expeditions to do wildlife and environmental projects, community work, and then adventure elements like trekking or scuba diving. So I really loved that job. And I know a lot of people in my network I'm still connected with. Many of them have now gone on to found their own businesses and things like that. So it's really great seeing everyone from there. And I basically came to Australia like a lot of paddies with the hope of just being here for 6 months and then going home. That was 8 years ago. So what happened was it was an ex of mine. She came out here and she got to come out with her job. So they put her up in accommodation. And I was like, no, I'm loving my job. I don't want to go out there yet. So we did the long distance thing for 6 months. And eventually she wore me down. And I was like, she said, you're never going to get the opportunity to live in Sydney rent free again. So I was like, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet. And I came out. At the time, I did not have much money at all because I had a very entertaining university life, and
as you should.
And working in a social enterprise, you don't earn huge amounts of money. So I remember my trip out here was like a 3-day camel ride. Because I had the best flight I could get within my budget to come out to Australia was, so I dropped the company car off in Bournemouth in the south of England. Okay. I then got the bus up to London Heathrow. So that's about a 3-hour bus drive.
Whoa.
And
I was thinking like 20 minutes, but anyway, obviously, I don't know.
Then got to Heathrow, and it was one of those sleeping overnight because I couldn't slept in the airport because I didn't have money for accommodation. And then the flight was London to Italy, stop off in Italy for 5 hours. So what happened here in Italy, I met up with another fellow who's flying solo, who's in the army, and then me and him became friends. We went to the duty free. He was Irish, I was Scottish, so we went and got a bottle of whiskey. And so the next leg was Rome to Taiwan.
Well, just back to the whiskey. Did we finish the whole bottle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what we did was, you know the way when you get things in duty free, they put it in a zipped bag.
Yeah.
So what I did, because obviously they check your bag. What I did instead was I put the piece of the whiskey bottle in the corner of the bag, and then ripped that part of the bag open, and then just was able to then drink. So when they went to inspect it, they would still see it's sealed. They just wouldn't see there's a hole in the bottom of the bag. So I ended up going to Taiwan. By this stage, it was like trains, planes, and automobiles. We'd made 2 or 3 other friends who were also traveling over this way, and it was a 10-hour layover in Taiwan.
Whoa.
And in Taiwan, we went up. I was like, look, I'm going to go to Tower 101. It used to be the biggest building in the world. So we went out there and then ended up in Australia. But that's a very long-winded way of saying how I ended up here in Australia. And,
it's a fun way. It's a good way.
Yeah, it was good. So then we got here. I remember it's a really vivid memory being in Barangaroo in Bungalow 8. We've been there a few times.
Yes, we
it's
have.
a great spot. It's a great spot, but this is during the day, not at night time with the epic sax guy. And I just remember thinking, yeah, I'm going to be here longer than 6 months. Just everyone was happy, beautiful weather. Like obviously being from Ireland, we don't really get sun much. So I was like, what is that strange thing in the sky? And then when I knew that, and it was something I was wanting to stick around, I basically went to a recruiter and I said, look, I want to stay in the country. I want to get sponsored. So I only want to consider jobs that will get me sponsored. Here's my CV. And basically I've been in sales of one way, shape or form since I was about 12 years old. So they looked at my CV, and I worked all the way through university because I come from a low income household. So I had to work to be able to pay rent. So I came out of university with a lot of experience, but it was mainly around the sort of the sales side of things. They were, look, based on this, you can go into recruitment or media sales. So I ended up in media sales, working for a company in North Sydney, and it was mainly B2B publishing. Then I ended up going to another company then, and they wanted to take over my sponsorship so I could come and work for them. So I did, and that company was a full service content agency. So that's really where I got the exposure to making content. Because up to that point, I was very much there's very much a delineation between a salesperson and a marketing person. Salespeople they're great, got great people skills, but they have a sort of arrogance about them that they think, I don't need any marketing. I can just get on the phone all the time. And it was at that job where I realized when marketing's done well, it makes that sales job easier. So it's really a symbiotic relationship between the two functions. So a lot of what I did in media sales was selling like sponsorship and like sponsored podcasts and things like that. So I learned how the production side of things works. And I've always been someone since I was 12 that I knew I wanted to run my own business. I just didn't know what that business was, what it would look like. So then when I got my PR, eventually it was a very, very long-winded way to get PR, because at the time when I first arrived here, they were very anti-immigrants. So they actually, I used to, like if I came to the country a year earlier, I could have got PR within 4 years.
Yeah, okay.
It took me 6 or 7 because of the changes, because I had to basically get renewed, and ended up on a partner visa because my now partner Lauren, who you've met, she's from Australia. So basically, as soon as I got my residency, I was like, it's time to go. So I went whole hog with it, and obviously, you being a financial planner, Victor, you'll know how excessive this was. So when I set up the business, I was pre-revenue, and I was like, no, I'm going to be building a business that will have multiple businesses inside. I want to set it up in the best way possible. So pre-revenue, I decided I was going to make a trust with a corporate trustee that owned the operating entity of the limited company. And then I would be a director of that limited company. So quite a complex structure for something that was pre-revenue. But in my mind, I was like, this is something, if I make this a legal entity, I'm bringing it to life, and it becomes something that I have to keep alive. Whereas if I went the easy route of getting an ABN, it was very easy to just transition back into an employee almost lifestyle, which is, it's the easy route, and you can actually make pretty good money. Like I was making around 200K a year, which is not a bad amount of money for Sydney. But it was just something that, I want to be able to earn a lot more than that. Because,
you had a bigger vision.
Yeah, for sure. Like growing up, because we didn't come from money, I seen my parents constantly their life was just sacrificed to give me and my brother the best life they could. So that was, I remember it would be a novelty when I seen my dad, because he would just be working flat out all the time. So when we did see him for that maybe one afternoon on the weekend, it was brilliant. And the same with my mom as well. She would be working nights, and I just thought, like, hearing this, and they were like, oh yeah, they would complain about work, but they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. Sure, it puts food on the table.
Yeah,
it keeps the mortgage paid and everything. And I just thought, I want to, when I grow up, be able to create a company that people look forward to coming to work in. And that's why it was so important for me to create something that I just had to keep alive.
Amazing. Yeah, that's definitely a good story. And I think one of the good things about planning well ahead is you avoid all the mistakes that people make when they go down an ABN and want to do something and then get another company before they know it. They've set up all these entities that do not talk together or do not work together. So and that's an amazing story. I think it's good hearing about the tips and tricks we can use when we're getting duty-free alcohol. I will keep that one in mind.
Vital information.
Yeah. So obviously now you have the A1 content club going and the community. Tell us more about that. What do you do there? How do you help people?
So the content club came out of working with a lot of smaller business owners. And the thing, we're filming this now in November 2024. You'll notice that all of the major social media platforms, they're really prioritizing video. And for a lot of people, particularly smaller businesses, I would hear a lot of things like, oh, I'd love to do video, but the buts are, I'm just not confident in front of the camera. But it's too expensive. But I just haven't got a Scooby what to do. But I've tried it before and it was just such a faff. Like, there was all this setting everything up and putting the ring light up and all this stuff. Yeah. And it was excuses. And there's two types of people. There are people who genuinely do see the value, see the power, and obviously you're one of them. You have your own podcast now. It can be done. You just need someone to be able to bridge that gap. And that's where the Content Club was born. So on A1 Connect side, we do sort of on the higher end video, there'll be two of us going out there. Those projects tend to range for a 2-minute video. It could be anywhere from 5 to 15 grand, usually, depending on the level of production that's required, number of locations, things like that. And that's just really cost prohibitive for small businesses. So what I wanted to do with the Content Club is basically jump into the void where it's like, we can do it for you, but we fractionalize the cost of production. So what I mean by that is, if there's a few ways you can save with video. You can outsource the editing part, because the editing it can be a day or two, depending on how complex it is. Sure. If you're getting an Australian to do that, that's the thing that makes things more expensive. And you generally want an Australian to do it when it's required quick turnaround. Because if you've got like 50, 100 gig of information, if you're getting it done overseas, you have to wait for that to get uploaded for the people overseas to be able to use it. Whereas if you're doing it locally, they can just plug in the SSD and then edit from that, and it's really easy. But yeah, going back to the point of the editing, most companies are like, I'm going to shoot the content for myself. The editing is going to we can save the cost there, but you still have the cost of getting a professional setup, and it's shouldered by one business. With the Content Club, there's basically two things that we're answering with it. One is that production costs get shared between 4 to 6 people, because we do events. They're in-person events. So part of that, you've been to the workshop. So it was sort of explore how you can set up for your professional brand. And then the second part of it then is we pair people up. So the second problem we solve is people who freeze up when they talk down the barrel of the lens. A lot of people, if you're not used to it, talking down the barrel of the lens like I am now, people forget how to speak English. Some really, really competent people, when they see a lens, they just shut down. So setting up literally like this, where you're just having a conversation, and then I just feed them the jump off points. Right, here's the 4 questions that you ask of each other, and then they just have that conversation. I record it, and then their answers become short videos that can be distributed. So that's what the content club is really doing, is making that, if they want to get the videos just done for them, we can do that. And we've now started to add in, we'll do the social media, we can set up campaigns and everything, because that's what we're hearing. Like even though we were giving them the videos, giving them the copy, which they can then go and schedule, it's like, I just don't want to do it. I just want someone else to do it for me. So there's still that segment of people who want to do that. But the other two elements of it where it's different from, I don't really consider it a video production business as such, is the education element where, and it's very much empowerment. It's like, here's how you can actually do it in-house. So you can actually control things in-house. So the idea being that to keep up with the volume of content that's required to really make a dent, you need to be doing it daily. But that's the reality of like, if you're not having going out daily, then competitors who are doing that, and if it's good content, they're winning. But if you're resource constraint, which every business is on some level, you need to have something in there where you can have BAU content, where it's just content that's going out, like quick stuff, and you sort of get used to thinking in sound bites. And then you can save your budget then for when you need the video talent. Because a good videographer, is when you're doing a hero video, it's going to be on your website for like 12 months or more. Yeah. That's where you want to go invest into getting the real professionals into, shoot and make sure it's all well shot. But a lot of the times you can just use your phone and have an internal editing process that allows you to just churn things out consistently there. And then the other element there that you don't really get with other video businesses is that it's networking as well. So we try to make it an environment where it's normalized to have a tripod out. It's normalized to have a camera, because the whole thing is geared around, we're making content together. We're becoming comfortable making content together. And it's one of those things like going to the gym, like any other skill, you got to get the reps in. And so that's the environment we're creating with the content club. And I have big visions for it. I
love it. ENTJ, you gotta ENTJ, strategize and get those visions and just make it happen.
And for those who don't know what the reference ENTJ is, that is a personality type in the 16 personalities test. Me and Vic early on in our friendship bonded over the fact we were both ENTJ. I'm also borderline ENFJ. Just depends what mood I'm in whenever I answer that thing. But so ENTJ, you're extroverted thinking. You use your
intuition and then judging.
And then you judge.
So now, we're definitely bonding on that on books, which we will talk about later on as well. But just going back to the A1 content community, I think even just hearing you talk about it, obviously you've thought about it a lot, and that's how you put all those layers or structure around it. And obviously being part of it has really helped, just even sitting across other people and then just asking us questions and then we videoing that is good as well. You touched on lots of points, but even the one as well as to, making it so natural that you're networking and you're getting videos of that, and then that is being posted, and that helps you sell your brand and gets people to understand what you actually do, which I think is very, very powerful. And the good thing about such situations as well, it's very candid, Yes. It's definitely not planned. It just happens and is natural. And I think that's very powerful, because when people sit down with you and they see something on video, they want to see whatever you've seen on video, because that's probably why you come in to use your services in the first place.
Yeah, so it's the videos, if you use it in the right way and in the right parts of your process, it actually can drive revenue. You can actually measure the results. So I'm all about, we take on clients now. It's like, let's take a baseline of your pipeline velocity. So pipeline velocity, for those who aren't familiar with it, it is a formula where you look at the average contract value, your conversion percentage, and the number of opportunities you get in a given period of time. You multiply those numbers together and then you divide it by the average sales cycle. So a video can do, in the two elements that it can really impact is, one is the conversion, because if you're pumping out loads of content, you're essentially developing that know, like, and trust factor in a one-to-many format rather than a one-to-one format when you just go to a networking event. And the second part is then you can really have that in your email flow. So when you're conversing with a client, they then get put into a nurture sequence where you're giving them video that's, giving value. Like Daniel Priestley, I follow, and I know we've spoken about him a lot. I love his notion of the jab hook, because I love boxing. I grew up doing a bit of boxing, and basically the notion of jab hook is like, so the jab is the most important punch in boxing because it sets up everything else. So the jab, if you like, is the value. So like jab, you're delivering value twice, and then it's a hook of like, do you want to come with me? So you can sort of get that 2-to-1 ratio of you're giving value, ask. Whereas some people make the mistake of just give value. And because there's no hook, you're not going to knock their socks off,
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard the jab hook, so but I love it already.
Yeah,
so
it's good.
So yeah. Okay, so in terms of the community as well, what challenges did you face trying to put that together? How was
what challenges didn't I face put it together?
and how has that contributed to, I guess, just personal success or just the sense of achievement? Like going back, and I didn't plan the ENTJ, but I just knew it would happen. We'd always talk about it. Like the ENTJs, we just are happy with some level of achievement. It's definitely not, Jeremy is not about the dollars, not about anything. It's about achieving those goals that we really want to achieve. So I can imagine you even just setting it up and getting it started, that's an achievement. So, what were the challenges? How did you feel after?
Well, the other part of it is, I don't know if you feel this way as well, Vic, but when I achieve something, you think that when you achieve that thing that you have this great sense of, oh yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
But so when we set it up, we got the first event going. We do boat events as well.
Yeah.
So getting that first boat event up and running,
which I loved, by the way. So can't wait for the next one.
But it was like I would do these things, and it would be an empty feeling because it was like it's not done yet. Like my big goal is not done. I want to get to 168 members, and I want to be a $1 million plus business in revenue. And because of my sales background, the frustrating part for me where I'm at in my business right now is I have sold over 1.3 million in sales in a year for another company while managing a team. So I'm in this scenario where it's like, well, I know I've got the ability to make over $1 million in a year. That's not a problem. But when you become you're a salesperson, it's like anything else. When you're an employee and you're operating in your zone of genius, you're going to be able to get more done because you're spending time in your zone of genius. When you're a salesperson that starts with their own business, you then are a salesperson, you're a marketing person, you're a finance person, you're an admin person, you're an operational person. And and your product's the only thing you've got. And that's really the importance of product that a lot of salespeople in particular don't appreciate. Like I've always been someone who's appreciated product, and I would always make friends. And that's why I was so successful in sales, is I would always make friends with the product team, or in the case of media, the journalists, and really learn from them because they were the experts in their field. That expertise would rub off on me as a salesperson, and that would make me an expert within the pain points of my end user client. So I knew the importance of product. So my energy then gets diffused across all of those areas.
Yeah.
So I'm less effective in sales because a lot of that energy is going into other things.
Yeah.
So I'm still doing pretty well across the board, but it's like and that's why it is so important to bring people in and teams in and partner with people who can fill in your blind spots. So in terms of going back to your question around challenges and things like that, the other thing I did was get a boat so what I did was I was like, I want to make video easy and fun. How do we make it fun? Let's get a boat, right?
Let's get a boat.
And
in Sydney, Australia.
We're in Sydney, you got the harbour, you got Pittwater. So I decided, you know what? This is going to be completely different. It's going to allow me to reach out to people way above my station and be like, would you like to come on a boat? Completely for free, no strings attached. And it worked, but it's still quite a significant cost. I actually spent 2 days learning to drive this boat because it's a membership based organization, and so that creates like a extra pressure in terms of cash flow. But in my mind, I was like, you know, you just rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to eat shit for a while. But once it starts flowing, it's then an asset within your business. So I'm just at that peak now where I am, you know, with the videos that we've been publishing, I'm now seeing leads coming in on LinkedIn from people I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
So it's getting to that point. It's like I don't know. Do you follow much of Alex Hormozy's stuff?
I've read his book.
What he's really good at is putting things into formulas and models and things like that. And he talked about this valley of despair that happens as a business owner. So like you start your business, you're full of enthusiasm, and you're like, oh, it's great, and then it starts to dip. It's like, oh, this isn't so great, and then you realize, oh shit, this is the valley of despair. This is like there's fires everywhere. I need to put out. Do I have this? Do I have it in me to be able to do these things? And then there's a massive inflection point. But the problem is a lot of business owners get to the bottom of the valley of despair and think, I'm done, I'm out. And they leave. And I just keep thinking about that valley of despair, which every business owner does go into. I think, you know, just got to keep going, one foot in front of the other, and really push through and believe that if you visualize it and you believe it and you put in the action steps to actually work towards that, then there isn't a limit to what you can achieve. You know, I'm a big believer of I can't remember where it was I learned this, but it was about like the power of manifestation. So it's like, think of your perfect self in a year's time, 5 years time, whatever, right? You've achieved everything, and then go into your mind's eye and ask that person what skills, traits, characteristics, how did they show up to get them to that point? So in your head is going to tell you what you need to do to do the thing you want to do. And then you just go and start doing that thing that you want to do. So that's, those are some of the techniques that I've been using to try and push through those moments of, Christ, this is a lot, you know, because going from large ticket things to then running events to also still doing the larger projects. Like it's almost like you're a juggler on a unicycle at times, you know? But the belief is there, the work is there. And I think it really helps when you've strung together a few wins in quick succession. And the opposite is true. If you've had a few losses in quick succession, it really gets you down in that valley of despair. But
a lot quicker,
you then just try to recalibrate to, right, where's the wins? Where can I try and find the wins? Even if they may not be an obvious win, go back to them, right, I've done this, right, how was that done? And just like bring yourself back to thinking. You've mentioned a few things there, and I don't know if you learned that manifestation from Sonia, but anyway, Sonia taught me that, which is amazing in terms of manifesting actually going back. But that the exact way of explaining it was, I think I seen it in another video. But yes, we've done a lot of stuff with Sonia
exactly. So and I think it's very, very powerful. You know, it's almost like always saying, what would this person do? And then you end up actually doing that thing because you kind of recalibrate or rather think the way it should be done. So going into the future and asking yourself, what skills do you need? What exactly do you need to do to get to that part? It just works wonders, psychology in that regard. And I recently read The Gap and the Gain. And that's by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. So they talked about, you know, how sometimes people always look at the gap. Okay, the gap is, okay, I want to get this. I want to get to this part. I've moved a bit. They look at how further you have to go versus what you've gained. So the gap and the gain. And I think even in that valley of despair, going back to what you talked about, business owners or people just need to look at the gain, which is very hard to actually see as a business owner, because as soon as you start a business and you start working on it, that business has value. It's not value you can take out. It's not value you can actually use straight away, but that is the gain. And even if you just focus on the gain, even in the valley of despair, because there is gain in every business. It's not easily monetized gain, but if you focus on that, that can actually get you through. And I think many business owners don't really look at that, because as soon as you stop that gain is gone.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's definitely something people need to focus on when you're going through, that valley of despair, because the inflection point is when you start to actually see the monetary gain, which is a little bit sad, because you're still gaining, even though you might not feel like it. The other thing I was going to mention as well, like even the skills you learn, like obviously learning to kind of what's the right word? Drive a boat. I was going to say drive a boat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but learning that is a skill. That's a skill that actually can help. But you probably did not think about it that way when you're thinking about, I need to grow the business. I need people for the community. So I think all those things are things people should actually think about.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like the reason the boat came to being is because the term A1, it turns out it's a nautical theme.
Okay.
So we have the term phrase, and you have it here in Australia, I think, A1. If something is A1, it means it is the best.
Top notch.
So when I decide I want to call it A1 Connect, because it's an aspirational business name. I don't want to be, a huge billionaire, but I do want to make millions. And I want to be known for a company that is A1 to work for and delivers A1 work. And I looked into because I love the etymology of words. And I looked back and did some research. Why is it called A1? Is it something to do with an A road? What is it? And it turns out back in the day, in the 1700s, Lloyd's Registry of Ships would categorize the quality of a boat's hull, A, E, I, O, and U, and the quality of the boat's equipment, 1 to 4. So if a boat had the classification A1, it meant it had the best hull, best equipment. It didn't need to be the biggest boat in the fleet, but in terms of quality, if it had those the best hull, best equipment, it got designated A1, and that's where it came from. So having that sort of nautical thing in the background, then developing out the system A1 content propeller, which is like the automation and software that I brought together to pump out loads of content with minimal effort. I call that the A1 content propeller. So then it sort of was like, a boat actually makes complete sense, because it allows me to then tell the story of the business. And I think it's important when you are, no one really cares about the business as much as the business owner. But I think for some people, knowing that story and knowing why it's called that, it's important for some people when they're selecting which partner to go with in a business. Is it, faceless, terrible name business over here, or the business that has a really interesting story and can also solve the problem that I have, which is the main thing that you need to be able to do.
And people just connect with stories. So, it's definitely important to tell stories.
I'm Irish, so I love a good story, like storytelling is one of the best skills you can have, because no matter what gets taken away from you, with dystopian future with AI and, the Terminator showing up, we could be out in the forest, in the wilderness, and have nothing but the shirts on our back and the stories in our heads, but that can't be taken away from you. And that's why it's that and music as well is another good skill to have, because, unless your body starts to fail you, music, will carry on, whereas with sport, your body does eventually fail you. Like, I love sport, but you can only go so far unless it's something like golf or tennis, in which case you just play at a lower standard for the remainder of your life.
But either way, connecting that back to videos as well that's why, stories through videos is powerful. Why having videos is actually a very powerful thing to have. So I guess how has teaching others and building a community helped you think about wealth, both for yourself and for those you serve?
So to your point around the lessons around wealth and community and everything else, I think that that's why the community is so important to me for the A1 Content Club in particular, is wealth I don't think happens in a vacuum. No matter, and I really hate the term self-made people, because you're not. Everyone, no matter who they were, what their life was, how terrible their life was, they needed help at some point before they got and earned their million. That help could have came in the form of their friends buying their product, or their clients being understanding when the business is at a clinch point, and also the ability to partner with other people where it's 1 + 1 is 11. You know, and getting skill sets, not necessarily having to hire another person, because hiring people can be, you know, long, arduous, expensive waste of time. Instead, you can partner with someone who has got the absolute advantage in their field, and together the two of you are better and can build. Because I would rather get 50% of 10 million than, you know, 100% of nothing. And that's really where I think the wealth and community are tied hand in hand. And the other point around it is, I believe now, especially since starting my own business, the importance of who you hang around with. I didn't get it when I was a kid. Like as a kid, I was a bit of a tearaway, and I did have some friends that my parents didn't like, and it always annoyed me when my parents didn't like them. But now, retrospectively, I realize why they didn't like them is because they were a negative influence and wouldn't get me to a better place. And it's the same no matter what age you are, you know, from a business owner point of view, going out into communities and surrounding yourself with people who are way better than you are, killing it way more than you are. It makes you step up your game. Whereas some people want to feel like king shit. So they will go into rooms where they are king shit, and they will essentially just be in a room of people who can never beat them, who can never pass on knowledge to them, and they won't grow. Whereas if you put someone in a room where you're the most stupid person in that room, you grow your everything about yourself. You grow in knowledge, you grow in wealth as well, ultimately, because if you can have more knowledge around how to do things and get to a wealth point that you want to get to, best people to speak to are the people who've been where you are. So even when I now go like and like thinking about working with business coaches, for example, I'll only work with a business coach who's being where I want to be. You know, there's business coaches out there who are earning like, you know, less than 10 grand a month, telling you how to scale your business. Whereas, you know, it's important to be like, right, who's the person who's done what I want to do? And I'm going to just ask them as much as I can, learn as much as I can from them, and then try and emulate it, but then put your own spin on it.
True.
Because no one else can be you. You just put your own personality on something that works. Yeah. At least that's the theory. Ask me again in a year's time whether that theory becomes a reality.
Well, actually, one of our other mates put it well, and look, going back to personalities, he's the INTJ. I don't want to call his name because he may not want to be known publicly, but he talked about you always go back to the first level principles, and then you put your own thing on it, because you know you're building something that you understand and you see the vision for. So if you're going to copy exactly what someone else has done, it's not going to work. You can only pull a few things. And Jeremy, going back to what you said about hanging with the right people, they have some great first level principles that they can show you, and that can then be pulled and worked with in the business, you know, to actually help it grow. So yeah, no, totally agree with you. Hopefully it doesn't change in 1 year, as you said, but yeah. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about books, because I know you love books. I read a lot as well. So I'm just curious, what are some of the books or resources that has influenced your approach to, you know, the A1 content, you know, and entrepreneurship and just wealth building? Yeah. So
one book I would highly recommend is Building a Second Brain by Thiago Forte.
Okay.
And it was so good. I actually, you haven't read it?
No, I haven't read that one.
So basically what Building a Second Brain is about is, the crux of it is the human brain is brilliant at coming up with creative ideas or ideas of any form, but it's terrible at storing them. And I found myself, prior to reading this book, I would get loads of ideas. And then like for content, for businesses, or it's just automatically wired for ideas to come. And I forget half of them. And I was like, no, I need to. So I came across this book, Building a Second Brain. And there's two acronyms to save you reading the whole book. There's basically
I'm going to read it, don't worry. But yeah, you can save the viewers out there that don't love reading.
There's two main acronyms in that book that has really helped shape what we recommend in the A1 Content Club. And now this applies to creating content ideas, but I also use it across my entire business for whatever the project is. But the acronym is CODE. So when you come across a piece of information, you need to have a mechanism to capture it straight away. Because from a point of view of coming up with content, it's never when you're sitting at your desk thinking of ideas. It's when you're out and about, you're walking on the beach, walking to a meeting, walking out of a meeting. It doesn't work as well in the shower because technology, it gets hard to write on things. But having that mechanism to be able to capture the piece of information or the idea that you have, then you need a mechanism to be able to organize that. So in the case of the A1 Content Propeller, I have it automated that when I capture an idea, it gets put into the second brain, which becomes a pool of ideas. And then when it comes time to shoot video, it goes into the next part, which is distill. So you take your big picture ideas and be like, that's a shit idea, that's a shit idea, that's actually a good one. I'm going to go and take this one now and start to distill it down and build it out a bit more. And then the final element is E, express. You then need to be able to express that thing that you've learned or that idea that you've done. Now, from a point of view of video, the act of actually videoing this knowledge, this idea, it has the secondary benefit of making you a better operator. Because when you're expressing it on video, like here's the new concept that I've learned, and you do a video about it, it's going into your head, your long-term memory. Whereas if you just come across it and you know the way, I'll take a screenshot of that for later. You're not going to look at it later, be real. And that's where this mechanism comes in, where you actually can go to the spot because it's the same spot all the time. And then the other element then, and this goes in under that O section of organize, he talked about file management. So in Grace, you'll understand this behind the camera. I've
always wanted to pull Grace in, so I'm happy you pulled her in. Thank you. Thanks, Grace.
Shout out, Grace. So folder management and file name management is something that from a big picture person, it's like, it doesn't matter. I'll just chuck it in any folder. But when it comes to the reality of producing videos, it massively makes a difference in the speed at which post-production can happen if you have your folder set up the right way. So I'm just using the content creation as an example, but this can be for any project. And he talked about back in school, we would organize our subjects in order of the subject. So you would have a maths folder, an English folder, a biology folder, a geography folder. But he's basically saying that is the wrong way to organize files in your life. What you want to do is, and this is the second acronym, is PARA. So he has a project folder. So projects are something that needs to get done and they have a deadline.
Okay.
So these are the hot button things, like you're working on this right now. So everything you're doing goes into a project. So for example, if you're working on a finance project that you need to have done next week, it's going to live in the project folder. The next layer down is areas. So areas are the always on things, but don't have a deadline. So these are things like, I'm going to put my brand guidelines in the marketing area because these are things that don't really change all that often. The next letter then is R. So that's the resources section. So this is where those kernel of ideas that come to you, like it might be a business idea or it might be a completely unrelated to business topic, that goes in the resources folder. Because what happens is when you come across these ideas that seem like great ideas, especially if you're neurodiverse, which a lot of entrepreneurs are, it can start to derail you and you start going down the rabbit hole of, I'm now going to learn about, how Weimar Germany had inflation, and you end up completely off task. But with the resources folder, you can be like, I'm going to save that for later. So then when you have the time and the bandwidth, you can go into your resources folder and be like, all right, what was all this? Yes, now I have the bandwidth to go down there and it doesn't derail you. And then the last one is archive. So the archive folder it would live in the projects file of your whatever way you have things set up. And then when a task is done, you never delete it. You just archive it. So that's how I do inbox zero.
Okay.
I don't delete. I just archive. So if it's a useless thing, I'll just archive.
Yeah.
If I need to action it, project, then I just clear my projects, and then that way I always have inbox zero. So that's sort of the way he was like, this is how you can tackle your life and build that second brain. And I've been using it now for over a year and a half, and it's great. The problem is the sticking to the rigor and not slipping into, I'll just make this quick folder here. Because like, no, make sure you're going into the right file and keep it in the right place. So from a point of view of how I have my phone set up, I actually have Apple's shortcuts so that when I've filmed a video and I'm going to send it to my team, I have a shortcut that automatically puts that in the exact folder I need it to go to. So I don't need to think about, what folders it goes in. You just press the button in the share sheet on the iPhone, and it goes straight in there.
Nice.
So it's like doing these little things that, because I'm actually terrible with process. I hate process.
Okay, interesting.
But that is why I've built a process that people who don't like process can follow.
Yeah.
Because I've been in businesses that have had really complex processes, but the people who can't follow process, and it's not because they're dickheads or anything, just some people, their brains can't work in that way. So I'd be like, no, process is important, but how do we take all of the friction out so that process can still be followed by someone who's not good at it?
Simplify it, make it
KISS principle.
feel almost like not a process.
Yeah.
For lots of people. But that's great. Code on Power. Okay. Yeah. Now I'll definitely read the book. And,
it's good.
And and I think one thing that you mentioned that I know I do as well is the rabbit holes. As to sometimes I literally just want to know what was the inflation in Germany in the 1920s and why was that, and then I actually go down that.
Which by the way, living in 2024, the banks are doing what they did in Weimar Germany that led to people burning money in the street because it was worthless.
Yeah. So because I remember I do that frequently, and I just like it because I get lots of knowledge that. I just feel, achieved, or whatever the word is about. So it's good because sometimes I think about stuff and then I'm like, oh no, you shouldn't be doing this now. And then I forget about it. But, having that folder system, really helps me when I'm bored, which never happens. Like, what do I look at? And then I choose a rabbit hole to go down.
You're either working or napping.
Pretty much. Working, napping, or exercising. Yeah. Are there any other resources you'd recommend for people that, want to really work on creativity and, build financial success? Because as you've just mentioned before with the Code on Power, you definitely had a good system in place, a good process and simplify. Is there any other resource you would recommend? Because I know you definitely read a lot and you have lots of resources which people can...
This is going to sound weird and don't judge me, but... social media is terrible. I personally don't like social media. But what I've managed to do is on my professional social media, which is the only social media that I use, you can actually train your algorithm to send you the things that you need to hear from a professional standpoint. So I don't like, I've got my personal account, which I'm rarely on. That looks like Comedy Central, office memes.
Yeah.
Like, all of it is just humor because I like laughing. But on the professional side, which I spend most of my time, if I'm flicking through Instagram, I'm flicking through, it's millionaires, it's billionaires, it's people who have been where I want to go. And anytime I'm on that feed, it makes me want to get off the feed and start doing things.
Yeah.
So, and you also then are able to pick up really good things that you're interested in and could apply to your business. And then you can just start putting your own spin on it. So one of the
great first level principles, as we spoke about. Yeah. So
that's one thing you can do that right now. You can also, if you don't have like a delineation between your professional and your personal, start being selective about the shit videos that are in your feed, and then you can train it to positively enforce good habits. I think another thing that you can do is just try to shoot a video of something that you're interested in, because as the way the world is going, video is becoming more and more important. Like, it's not a nice to have now. It's so democratized that anyone can do it, but most people still put it in the too hard basket. But the best thing to do is just just shoot it and see how you go. Your first 10 is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But then you get better, and then all of a sudden you can start thinking in sound bites. Like particularly for founders and business owners, like another tip I would have is going into one take environments. So if you're in a networking group and you're doing feature presentations or you're asked to do some sort of a workshop, video them and then start thinking in your head in terms of sound bites. And what that does is you are then really rinsing that in-person experience and giving it a much longer half-life, because not only did the people in the room see it, you then have loads of sound bites where people who are outside the room in your LinkedIn profile, for example, can also view it. So you're being just way more efficient with your time. So it's like a flywheel effect. So when you get, like, particularly at the end of a presentation, when you get asked questions, if you can start thinking in sound bites. So for example, now I hate this in normal conversation.
Yeah.
If I ask someone a question and they repeat the question back to me rather than just going in and answering the question, that's annoying in regular conversation, because I know it's not right. They don't know what they're talking about and they're just repeating the question to give themselves time to think. But it actually works really well if you're on stage. So it's like, for example, someone might ask you, what are the main differences between an SMSF and a retail super fund? So you would then answer, and imagine that there's a camera rolling. You've got your own, and it could be your own camera on a tripod. It could be a junior member of staff who's just videoing you, or you can get a professional videographer in to go and shoot the event. But you would say the main difference between an SMSF and a retail super fund is the ability to control what investments you make. So if you're someone who really wants to take control of your own wealth, SMSF is definitely the best way to set it up, and you should speak to a financial professional to be able to do that. So that's an example of that answer is now a video.
Exactly.
But it's structured in the right way that you're giving people context and you're creating a curiosity gap that makes them want to watch that video for longer. Because that's where the key is, being able to go through like a 10-minute presentation and find the bits that can be self-contained, entertaining pieces of video. Because if you get that wrong and it's just like, you're blabbing on, people aren't going to watch it, and that's going to impact that video's efficacy. Whereas when you can start thinking like that, and again, it's just repetition. Like when you realize, right, no, this is going to be going out on LinkedIn, so I'm going to answer it this way. So that's another thing you can do. Yeah,
and that's really amazing. I think making self videos is just like anything. You need to practice. I remember when I started making videos, and you helped a lot. You gave me some coaching, and the ones of, sometimes your physiological stance matters a lot as well.
Yes, yeah.
So even just small tips like that, I wouldn't have known that by myself. And, you really helped me in those aspects, which have been good. And when I look at the videos I was making 2 years ago compared to the videos now, I'm like, yep, lots of improvement.
Yeah. You're really good. Yeah.
And I think another thing as well with videos is you put it out, and then you see it and you don't like it. It's almost like firing a bomb to make it better, to work on it. While as if you don't put it out, then you actually never just improve. So
yeah, exactly. You need to everyone has a plan until someone gets punched in the mouth.
Yeah,
Mike Tyson. It's the same with video. Like everyone thinks they've got a great, and it can be vice versa as well. You might spend ages on a video and think this is shit hot. Like that's happened to me so many times. I was like, this is going to go really good, and I post it. It doesn't land. But then you look at why didn't, and this is the post-mortem is important on each video that you do. It's like, what was different about this video than the other videos? And you might find when the flighting time was wrong. So flighting is when you, like the time that you publish it. And it actually makes a difference on which platform you're on as to how much reach it's going to get. So with LinkedIn, for example, you want to be posting in the morning around 7:30 to 8, because people will be on their phones on their way to work. So if you're getting that first hour, that first 90 minutes, you're getting a lot of engagement, that's going to perform a lot better than, say, if you posted a LinkedIn video that was shit hot, but you got the flight time wrong, and you might have it going at like 2:00 in the afternoon where everyone's spent and they're definitely not going to be on LinkedIn. That might be a great video, but it dies a death. And then vice versa, looking at if you're using two great platforms to be posting on, is YouTube and TikTok. I personally, if you're going to pick one, I hate TikTok because it's just too much of it. Like you want it to be on platforms that you actually enjoy consuming on. And I love YouTube. And YouTube, you actually get the retention graph. So you can go into your individual videos and see, right, what point do I see quite a big dip? Because they all have a dip, right? But if you can't keep people on, particularly for short form video, for the first like 10 seconds, it's not going to get the same reach as if it were to get that good ones. You might be like, right, the hook in that video wasn't the best. So you could literally just redo the hook and post the exact same video again, and then see the difference. And you're always testing these micro things that makes a big difference. But you then have to realize that it's a worthwhile thing to do. Whereas some people put video in I have to do it, but I don't enjoy doing it. When you start making it like, this is a skill that I want to get really good at, you then start really going into those little 1%ers. Then all of a sudden, you add 1% on for every day for a year, you're twice as good. Isn't that it? It's like the 1% rule.
Yeah.
Twice as good as you were at the
Yeah.
start.
I wish we could talk for longer, Tommy. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to either join your community or get in touch with you?
So on my LinkedIn, I have a link to join the A1 Content Club, the virtual version. And on there, I've got loads of ChatGPT templates. I've got how to work with certain software that makes life easier. And on that page as well, if you're someone who doesn't know where you're at in terms of video and you want to get going with video and you want to just see where you're at for 2025, on that same page there's a video growth session. So we'll go in and look at what's the videos on your website, what's the videos on your social media, and what's the videos in your sales funnel, and identify the quick wins that you can make to be able to get the ball rolling with video in 2025.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us.
Vic, thanks so much for having me. This has been great.
No,
great studio. Thank you, Grace, behind the camera. Silent thumbs up.
So thanks, viewers, for joining us today. So it's been a great conversation with Tommy. And please, we'll put a QR code out there for you to actually join his community or reach out to him. Please follow, like, and share for more educational content, and we'll be bringing lots of more interesting people on, like Tommy Gunn. Thanks.